Hello, hello. It's JJ here. I'm so excited to be starting the third season of Together We Seek podcast. The practitioners are amazing, and I have worked with so many of them, and they've worked with my friends. And I feel like it's such an amazing way to bring great women together, both online and through the podcast. So thank you again for listening. And today's guest is no different. Luna Hart is an amazing practitioner that has had a really fantastic journey of self discovery. And now she's helping so many women really kind of dive into what's happening inside of their body so that they can live a more optimal life. Luna and I have been working together for a couple months now, and I'm super excited to share her experiences, but more importantly, her work with you. So, Luna, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, JJ, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about the work you're doing now.
Yeah, so I work all online and mostly with women and really focus on supporting women just feeling comfortable in their bodies, living their most fullest life. And I do that using a couple different methods. I love using functional lab work so we can really get that nitty gritty data that, sometimes we can't always intuit. And then I also like to still use the intuition and definitely get the foundations of the diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and a personalized supplementation to really get people working at their highest level. And yeah, it's just been a true honor because I feel like this is what I'm doing now is what I've always been wanting to do. And it's finally like, I feel like my legacy work. And it took me a long time to get here. So it's just like every day I step into my office and I feel so grateful and for my clients and just to be supporting others in their healing journey.
I love that. I love that. And as you know, so many people that listen to this podcast are trying to start things off the side of their desk or doing their work on the weekends. So, can you talk us a little bit about your journey to get to this point?
Sure. And I was thinking about it, like there's actually some really sweet parts of my health journey that I typically don't share on social media or even on my website. And I think it's actually some sweet things that I feel comfortable sharing here. So stay tuned to the very end of this health story because there are some parts of it that I kind of keep a little more private actually. But really my health journey started at a really young age. And this really, when I share the story, it comes with no shame or blame. I really have no regrets about my health journey. I feel honestly like it made me the person I am today. But growing up, my stepdad was a pharmacist, and I had the chronic, really bad strep throat. And I was in and out of the doctors, say 4 times a year, getting antibiotics. And eventually they wanted to take out my tonsils. And at a very young age, I remember just being like, no, don't let them take out my tonsils. And I remember my stepdad looking at me. He's like, I'll never let them take out your tonsils. And so his way of doing that out of like the true, like his heart, like he thought he was saving me, is he put me on antibiotics as a vitamin. And so I actually on and off took antibiotics throughout my whole growing up and didn't realize I had quote unquote an addiction to antibiotics until I left school for college. And I realized that was the moment when I like actually called him up. I'm like, I have strep throat. He's like, okay, you're a big girl now. You have to go to the doctors and get your own antibiotics. And then I started to just question, like, I was just like, this is weird. Like, I don't see other people needing antibiotics. Like, I need antibiotics. And I'll never forget the first naturopath who was just like, I told her my story, and she's like, you need to figure something else out. You need to stop taking antibiotics. Like, you need to get your gut health back. So at the age of 19, I was on my health journey. But soon after that, I lost my cycle. At age 21, I lost my cycle for 7 years, like did not menstruate. And this was a huge part of my journey, like just being so confused. Like And I'll let you know that another interesting synchronicity was that I took the name Luna as a name, like literally right before I lost my cycle, my moon cycle, So here I am, like initiating myself into Luna, and now I'm not bleeding. And I was just like, this is not right. Like, where's my menstruation? So this was literally almost 2 decades ago. And I remember going to the medical professionals, even some naturopaths, and just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And often I was told that my blood work was all normal and there was nothing that they could do for me. And the only thing that they ever could recommend for me was the hormonal birth control, which, just for anybody on this call who doesn't know, that would literally just be masking my symptoms. The birth control pill would have made it look like I had a menstruation, but technically my hormones wouldn't be creating a menstruation. I wouldn't be ovulating and then menstruating some days afterwards. So it was a band-aid approach. And I just said no for 7 whole years. Like, they kept saying, like, I saw so many doctors that were like, birth control pill. And then it was like towards the end of that 7 years, I really like splurged some big funds to see this hormone specialist. And I remember walking into this fancy clinic and throwing down all this money to see this high-end hormone specialist. And I remember just sitting down, and she never like asked me some of the basics, like, how's your gut health? How was your childhood? Did you take a lot of antibiotics? Are you exposed to any environmental toxins? Where do you live? What's your home like? What's your stress levels like? All these really crucial underlying factors that really are important for hormone health. She didn't ask me anything. And she just kind of took like this really brief health history and then was like, I think we need to put you on hormonal replacement therapy. So HRT, which is just, once again, at certain times, yes, that could be a really good remedy for an extreme hormone imbalance. But it's always after you factor in all the other things that are causing the imbalance. And, meanwhile, just so you know, like, on the side of going to these doctors, I am doing my own work. Like, I was on my digestive health journey. I was doing seasonal detox, and I was listening deeply to my body and my needs and trying to figure out what was going on. And so, anyways, the specialist, she's like, this is all I have for you. And I'm like, I just looked at her and I was like, no. I was like, I am going to get my period back. And I walked out of her office. And yeah, this is the part that I actually typically don't always like share like readily on social media or even on my website, but it feels like your audience would resonate with it, is that I at the time was living on a big property of land in Northern California, and that was part of the healing. I had to start to move slower, and I was gardening, I was composting, I wasn't driving as much, and I was just moving a lot slower. And basically had a roommate, and he was leaving to see his spiritual teacher. And I looked at him, I was like, when you get back, I'm going to be menstruating. And I remember telling him that. And what I was being called to do in that moment was to set up a ceremony for myself. And I had some plant medicine that I brought back from Peru. And I created a sacred circle for myself just by following my intuition. I had my journal out, I had my drum out, I had candles out. And I sat there and I just prayed, and I ended up bleeding the very next day. And like, literally, like, my roommate came back and he's like, I'm like, I'm bleeding. I think I probably had like menstrual blood, like, like tattooed on my face now. But it was definitely like the deepest moment. I could not believe that I was finally menstruating after 7 years. And then what happened from there is just like me moving back into being in my body and remembering what it was like to be a cycling female. And yeah, so I really, now I'm 44. I think I just shared my Dutch test on Instagram. And, my estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone were all perfectly within range. And, here I am, 44, like I was in menopause in my 20s. And I feel like I just don't want any woman to think that their story is their end all be all. Like there is so much room to really support underlying factors and get your body back, get your hormones back, get your digestion balanced in so many ways. So
That is amazing. There's so many ways I want to take this. But first, I just want to celebrate the menstrual cycle because I feel like so many of us dread it. It's such a negative energy we put on it. And even having a daughter that's through it, and she's in her teenage years, when she got her menstrual cycle, we had like a little dinner and celebrating. And she's like, Mom, we're like the only ones doing this. Do you just want to go to dinner? And I'm like, no, I don't, because I've read so many books like The Red Tent and so much historical books around women and how society makes us feel so yucky about such an amazing, just an amazing piece of our body. And I think it's amazing the work you do now because you're helping women across the whole spectrum. But the fact that like it kind of started with your menstrual cycle is just absolutely fantastic that you wanted to get it back. Most women would never say like they're like, oh, that's a nuisance. I don't want to do that. So what about this was like drawing you to like get it back?
yeah, it's interesting when you don't have it in the menstruating years. You don't feel right. Like at that time of not having it, I literally didn't date a single person because like I didn't have the pheromones. Like there's so many things that hormones give off. Like I didn't date because of other reasons too. I wasn't well on many levels. But like I do feel like these hormones are like, especially in our menstruating years when we're supposed to have this fluctuation through our cycle, they make us who we are. And unfortunately, we see it as like, like you said, society has really painted it as like, the moody woman before her period. And, but this is like the hills and the valleys of being a woman. And to be very honest, they should be celebrated. And I totally feel what you're saying. Like, I actually like, I mean, when you look at the timeline of womanhood, it's like, we get the period, it's like, here's your pads and tampons, like, shh, and then soon after that, it's like, here's the birth control, let's even hide it even further. But like, it's true, like, actually, our fertility and our ovulation and just the flow of our cycle is like such a beautiful expression of being a woman. And for me, I do celebrate it. And at the same time, when I do have clients who are like I don't want to bleed. I'm just like, I feel for them and I also don't push them. Like, I understand that's where they're at. So
And I just love this energy because it really gives us like a little space to just appreciate our bodies more. I think so many women overlook the beautifulness of your body, whether or not you choose to have kids, whether or not you choose to bleed, if you use cups or you use other things, it really doesn't matter. It's like we are so perfectly orchestrated for such amazing work. And I'm definitely not talking about the work that happens in corporate offices or in our business, but just being a woman on the planet right now and how important it is that we really nestle into our fullness and our cycle. And when we were talking about the vitalness of our cycle. And so, can you just touch a little bit on why you choose the word vital and cycle in the same sentence?
yeah. So, just my story is the perfect story to demonstrate. Like when I wasn't menstruating, my cycle was not well. And so it was the telltale sign that something was wrong. And so that's why it's just so confusing to me to go to like a medical professional and don't know, everything is normal, like you're like, no, nothing is normal right now. So and what I'll say is like very truly, I'm a functional health practitioner, but I also am a fertility awareness educator. So I teach women to track their cycles. And when I see my clients realize how sensitive they realize they are, their hormones, their cycle, to the stressors of life, it's like this like eye-opening, like, it could be just the vacation or the traveling, or it could be, the diet change or the medication. Or for me, like most recently what happened is I got food poisoning, and my cycle was a total chaos for, one to almost 2 cycles, and then I got it back. But it's like we don't realize that our cycles will be a meter for how we're doing. So by tracking it and being in tune with our cycles, we can really see when things are off and fine tune them before they ever become a big problem.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. And, I always talk about in my book and with different people that we learn our lessons from people early on in life. And so, have you done some deep work on like the medicine, the antibiotics? Like, why was that such a big piece of your journey?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was such an insult on my immune system. So on like a physical level, it was just an extreme insult on my gut microbiome. It got my the healthy, friendly bacteria in your gut is truly the immune system of your gut. And then it actually just kind of became a codependency, actually, where my immune system might have slightly like took a break and said, okay, the antibiotics has it. And yeah, there was on so many levels just actually having to reestablish and come out of that trauma. Like on some ways it was a trauma that I had to heal and resolve.
I think that's beautiful because I always say, like, what you grow up with sometimes is some of your life's work. And the fact that you are in this field now, but went through like essentially medical trauma and then your cycle on top of it and your tonsils, I think were great testing slash, grounds for self-learning. And now the work that you do now is really makes you focus on how the body works. And I feel like for me, I that's not my specialty. Mine is, energy and women and standing up for them and leaning into what's calling. And I grew up in a family that, my mom didn't tap into her power. And like seeing that was a feeding ground for kind of the work I do now. And so I do think we get some of our life work lessons from, what happens under the roof in which we spend, the first 15, 20 years of our life.
Yeah, it's true.
So powerful. So I want to take a minute and just kind of talk about the work we've been doing because I think it's something that, again, giving yourself permission to lean into yourself. And I've gone through, I'm on the other side of my cycle and period, and I noticed my body changing in more ways than one. And I too went to the doctors. I too got tests. And, everyone's like, oh, you're fine. You need hormone replacement now and a series of opportunities to make that happen, but I really felt like I could heal myself or I could at least level myself out. And I feel like the work I've been doing with you has helped me recognize where I need to really balance myself, pull things down, push things up. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. When the body is presenting, like, I think my greatest core message for people is to just start listening to our bodies, and our bodies will signal when we need support. So, and it's really important that we don't bypass those. The minute that the messages come up, we start to listen, and sometimes you don't know exactly what to do. So that's where some functional lab work can be very helpful. The difference between functional lab work and, say, just testing with like a medical practitioner, a standard medical practitioner, is we're not looking to diagnose any disease. We're looking for healing opportunities and how to optimize health. And I think that's very much where you were at, JJ, is like, it's not like you need to go to a doctor. You actually needed a functional health practitioner to see where can I optimize in this stage in my life? How can I make this better? How can I be the best version of myself. And so we ran a stool analysis and a hair tissue mineral analysis, which I really feel helps get to some of the root causes of some things. And then you get to really just make some adjustments based on the lab work, which, really is just kind of optimizing the diet, optimizing the rest, exercise, stress reduction, and then using some supplements to rebalance some of these depletions that you're seeing and some of the, pathogens even on the GI map, the stool analysis. So
That is so true. And I will say, I will admit, I want to work at optimal speed. I feel like I still have a lot of life work to do. And I feel like even more now than ever, I have to take better care of myself, which I didn't really do in my 20s and 30s and even 40s. And I feel like now that I'm in my 50s, I have some catching up to do. And I will even admit, we did the samples, we looked at everything. And Luna did an amazing job just putting a few vitamins together. I said, I don't want to do 20 vitamins. I need to have it between 5 and 10 because that's what I can really handle now. So I think knowing what you can handle is important, but it still took me some time to get it into my schedule. And I'm still working on it. Today I'm drinking my turmeric tea, which I love, but I've added the immune system, Mega IG 2000. And it's great because everybody in my family's been sick and I have. So I'm like super excited about that. But I really think it's about shifting. So you want to talk a little bit maybe about what shifting means for your clients and how to kind of get started, or what kind of mindset do you have to kind of get into this?
yeah, I would say most people who come to me are a little bit more like things are stacking on, and it's like become this severe moment of needing change. And I think for you, like you have, a few things stacking on, which I'm always like really happy about. Like to be more in the super preventative care with just a few things stacking on, which is just so great, and maybe why you didn't make immediate changes because life is okay. You're just looking to optimize. But I would say a lot of my clients do come to me where it's like about to break. And so they do actually usually move a little quicker into say recommendations because there's like they're gripping for it. But there is like a wide range of in my work that I just want to, I move at my client's pace. And I do work with people everywhere from 4 months to a year long. And it's just really based on, I mean, the work that we're doing, me and you, JJ, is we're doing something smaller, but I do like for certain things, it's like, oh yeah, we need a whole year to like really make a change in this. And that's just being honest. And then some people I'm like, oh yeah, we can definitely turn this over in 4 months. So it's like a wide range. And I'm glad that I can hold and just go at the pace of my clients. I think what's most important is whatever you're doing should not add more stress because you can't heal in a state of stress. So I think things like with you, JJ, you have a lot going on, and we don't want to cause more stress by the protocol, but we do want to start to weave it in a way that is easeful and it's just going to continue to support you. So
Well, I appreciate it. And I love bringing these conversations forward because I know just through the work I've done over the last 2 decades that if I'm moving through this, there's probably more women too. And I love bringing practitioners to the forefront that can be a level of wisdom, a level of knowing, give people options. I think many people that listen to the podcast and participate in the community are doing really big work, really big work. And what I've learned through doing work that really like illuminates my path and the ones for others, that we do have to take care of ourselves. We do have to invest in ourselves because without our engine, it's hard to make other things kind of move forward. So as we're wrapping up, Luna, do you have any words of advice or other stories you want to share that you think will really kind of, just bring together some of the work that you're doing?
for me, I get completely honored to witness people's healing, and really, it's like setting forth not only with all the lab work and the protocol, but it really comes down to that intention piece and really claiming it. And I think that's kind of just cycling back to how I got my menstruation back. It's like it was not like all the things leading up to that moment were so important, but there was something so surreal about me claiming that this was an actual thing and it's happening now. And I think that piece is just has to be along the ride in a healing journey. So.
Mm, I love that. And so many people ask me what light workers are and if you can see Luna right now, she is illuminated. And I just really believe when women are in their life's work, you can tell because their face just completely lights up. And I feel like we're so honored to have you not only in our community, but helping us reclaim our womanness, our cycle of what it means to us. And I think for so many of us, like a lot of times the bookend is we're sad to get it and happy for it to go, but there's a lot that happens in between and even before and after that. And I feel like it's just so great to have somebody to work with that can bring some of the lessons forward, but also some of the wisdom to even us out so that we're not having such traumatic experiences, from our womb. So thank you so much for joining us, Luna.
My pleasure.
Well, with that, we really appreciate you joining the podcast, and we'll see you here next time.